Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be working on a very simple little painting. It's just a field of poppies. They're always popular. Poppies are always really popular. Very simple to paint, so it's going to be just very loose, very easy. I'm using acrylic paper, just brushes. All you need is a number of brushes, different sizes, paints, and a spray bottle is always handy, just with water in it, lots of white paint, and we'll get going on it. A hairdryer is handy sometimes if you want to dry it off as well very quickly. And so we'll get started, and I'm going to just zoom in on this piece of acrylic paper, and you can see my palette underneath as well, so you just get a view of that as well, I hope, as we go on. So there we are, and we'll get started on this painting. So I'm just feeling that, yeah, it's just focused. So yeah, I'm just going to start working on the background to this painting, and I will use my larger brush, and I've got some paint already here I was using on my palette, so I'm just, as usual, I'm just going to get rid of the white on my page. And I haven't clamped this down, so I'm going to do that as well right now, because it will start buckling and bending, and especially when it gets wet, it'll be very hard to work on it. So I'll just clamp these down at the very, I try to just keep them right out to the very edge, and it's just easy then to touch them up when I'm finished the main painting. So yeah, I'll give this more or less a blue background. And as I go down the painting, I'll darken it a bit, add a bit of purple in to that blue. So there we go. I've got a lot of that, most of that white gone from the page. I always like to get rid of the white. And I'm going to come in with some yellow and just put in the grasses in the background here. And I'm coming in with just a slightly a medium-sized brush. And really, what I'm focusing on here is just the idea of grass marks, grasses. And they're coming from all directions, like that. It's just kind of very loose and free the way I'm putting this paint on. This is a really simple painting. We're just focusing right in on the grass. and then I'll be adding in the poppy heads. And some more yellow. So these are my grasses. And I am going to use my thin brush to add in a bit of green in here. So the idea is just to have them looking quite random, that they're blowing around in the wind, and that I'm not being very precious the way I put down these marks. They're just general grass marks. So now that I've got my grass roughly marked in, I am going to put in some poppies. And I'm going to mix some white in with, I have a red down here on my palette. I'm going to mix the white in just to keep it quite pale, and then I'll darken those poppy heads as I go on. So really I'm just at the moment playing around with, I'll probably take some of these out, but again I'm holding this brush down at the very end, not up at the top. I'm not holding it like a biro, I'm holding it down here. And it means that I have less control over the brush, but the marks I make are more spontaneous. I can always come back in and hold the brush in a different way and work on some of these and make them more definite as time goes on. But in the beginning I want them to look like random poppies, random marks. So they're kind of generally poppies. They're quite pale. I'm going to put a dark colour now in this very, very dark blue to set those poppies down and give them centres and give them stems, things like that. I'm using this dark colour just to add more detail into the background as well. Just putting in kind of some random marks here like this. Just does help to break up that not everything is a straight line. And really I'm just kind of tapping with this brush. Marks of kind of grasses and seed heads and all sorts of things just in this background. Now I know I'm kind of going over the poppies, but that's kind of normal as well, because some of these grasses would be in front of the poppies as well. But I will come back in again and define those poppy heads and really darken them down to make them dark red. I'm trying to just bring in a bit of movement into this picture so that everything isn't vertical. Now, could be just pollen or, you know, bits of grasses blowing around. So I'm just giving these kind of little swirling marks to liven this up. There we go, and I'm going to come back in now with a deep red for those poppy heads. And I may use the rigger brush again to do the heads. because I just like the way that this brush makes these lovely little shapes. So when we're making these poppy head shapes, I don't want to have them all separate from each other, you know. I want some of them behind each other, that they're kind of joining up in places. It's like not a whole load of individual poppies, but a lot of them here and there joined up together, growing in clumps around the place. And they can be coming off the page, you know, they don't have to be all in the center, but you can have some off the page that they're coming off the bottom, that they're all not just sitting neatly in the middle, and that just makes them look far more realistic. And I'm going to mix some of that red with my dark blue. It almost gives me a black, a purpley black colour, where I can really go into the centre and do those centres. I don't have to give a lot of detail to the ones in the distance. I just suggest them. And putting in the stems. So I've just paused it there a few minutes ago and stood back and had a quick look at the painting, just to make some decisions about what I'm going to do next. It is almost finished, but I think maybe some of these little flower heads could do with outlining them a little bit, so I'm going to try that and see if that enhances them. Sometimes it does enhance them, but then sometimes I undo it again. But I just want to give maybe some of them a bit of an outline. But I'm using this loose brush, which gives more kind of fluid marks, the rigger brush. So yeah, it's just to give them a little bit more definition. So I'm not going to outline all of them, just some of them. Probably the ones more closer to the viewer, or at the bottom of the painting, the larger flower heads. And maybe just the odd one up here. And I do want to go in again to darken those centres. So I'm just doing very delicately with the very tip of the brush, putting in some faint marks of stems and undergrowth here to add more detail and more interest. I want to add now a small bit of yellow into the hearts of those flowers and maybe in other parts of the painting. So I'm going to mix that yellow. I got some white, I have some white here as well. So I'm going to just add a little bit of detail there. I'm not crazy about this brush. So I'm going to leave that brush and dab some of that out. It didn't work out that well, but it's okay though. And I will use the rigger again. I have this is a thinner rigger brush. And using my finger again, just to where I felt I was just a bit heavy-handed with that paint. And I'm going to just go back in with a bit more of the red. Yeah, it's just nice to brighten up those poppy heads, have them as bright as possible. And just adding that little bit of detail into the centre of the poppies really does help, I think, to make them, the red pop a bit more. So I think we're there. It's a little very simple poppy painting. You could keep going on and adding more details in and adding more highlights, stems, and I suppose I need to be careful not to overdo it. But I hope you enjoyed this today, and please subscribe and like and share. It really does help to get these paintings out there further so more people can see them. And I hope you got something out of it and that you will attempt to do something like this. It's very simple, so I'd really encourage you to do it. And I'll talk to you again next week. Until then, God bless and bye-bye.